50 cents across the country. And they decide on this day in March, Cinco de Mayo, that what they want to do is announce $1 billion in May, $1 billion for a ballroom. That is a bait and switch for the American people.
There are security things at the White House that have to be done.
Scott Jennings returned to Abby Phillips's show after getting completely embarrassed by Adam Mockler in a clip that quickly exploded across social media. This time, Scott showed up fully prepared to defend Trump at any cost, doing everything he could to spin the narrative and support Donald Trump, while many Americans continue to feel misled and frustrated. Ana Navarro was also back on the panel alongside several other guests, and as expected, the debate quickly turned tense. In this video, we will break down some of the biggest moments from the discussion, and I will also share my own thoughts along the way, so let's dive in and watch it together.
It looks like American taxpayers could be footing the bill for President Trump's ballroom. After all, Senate Republicans are now looking to give the Secret Service $1 billion, yeah, that's billion with a B, dollars for security upgrades for this project. The cash tucked inside of a broader immigration reconciliation package, and the GOP is arguing that the public should bankroll some of the costs after last month's shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But that's not what Trump has been saying since he started his prized renovation project.
We have no taxes. This is taxpayer-free. We have no taxpayer putting up 10 cents.
We did this no charge to the taxpayer whatsoever.
I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it. The country's not. We're donating a $400 million ballroom. Myself and donors are giving them free of charge for nothing. It's being paid for 100% by me and some friends of mine, donors. Rich people and people are putting up the money. Zero taxpayer dollars.
Brad, what in the bait and switch is this?
Well, what I would tell you is if Democrats had not been willing to fund the Department of Homeland Security, not shut the government down, we would not have this reconciliation vehicle, which can be passed.
Okay.
The leader, Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson, we're not planning on doing this.
Abby Phillips could clearly tell that he was not being honest, and at that point, all she could really do was sit there and laugh at how ridiculous the argument sounded.
Democrats forced them to do this, and so now the president's...
Democrats
So you support the ballroom.
Republicans.
I do support the ballroom.
You support
We need a ballroom. The Obama administration thought we needed a ballroom. We need a ballroom.
Like as recently as a week ago, right after the White House Correspondents' Dinner attempted shooting, the DOJ ran to court in 2 days afterwards to argue in front of the judge who has put the injunction on the construction about the need to build this ballroom. And in that legal filing that was done last week, Trump's DOJ, that thing read like a Trump tweet. It said over and over, it's going to be free. It's a gift from me to the American people. It's not going to cost anything. So the problem is not the vessel that it's on. The problem is not the shutdown. The problem is that Trump lied and that he said over and over again. First, it started as a $300 million project that was going to be paid by his cronies, the tech titans and all the donors that want to kowtow to him. Then it got to $400 million. I don't know what the hell happened to that $400 million because I thought it had already been raised. But now they want an additional $1 billion coming from my pocket at a time when Americans can't pay for gas. So therein lies the problem.
I do not even understand. I really am trying to understand. If you're Republicans, you know you're facing potentially a tsunami come the fall. Just the history is not in your favor this year. Gas prices are $4.50 across the country. And they decide on this day in March, Cinco de Mayo, that what they want to do is announce $1 billion in May, $1 billion for a ballroom.
Well, if I may serve as the clerk of the table, I'll read you from the bill. None of the funds made available under this section may be used for non-security elements of the East Wing modernization project. That is direct text from the bill. Now,
I don't think that matters it doesn't matter even one scintilla because...
It doesn't?
No, it doesn't. Because, first of all,
but that's in the bill?
The president said that the project would cost...
It doesn't matter that it's written into the bill because honestly, nobody seems to believe this story except Scott Jennings. Donald Trump has already claimed, as Ana Navarro and others pointed out on the panel, that donors would cover the entire cost and taxpayers wouldn't be paying a single cent. Now it has suddenly turned into $1 billion in taxpayer money. So why should anyone trust what Trump is saying at this point? Even if someone landed here from another planet and knew nothing about Donald Trump's history, they would still look at this situation and immediately think he is not telling the truth. You wouldn't even need years of examples to figure it out because the contradictions are right in front of everyone. And the biggest question that is rarely asked on CNN is how much of this money could somehow end up benefiting Donald Trump himself. Because let's be real, not every dollar from that billion is actually going toward building the ballroom.
And that it would be entirely paid for by private donations. So now to then come and say after the fact, well, there are security upgrades that we need to make, and it's going to cost 2.5 times that amount, in addition to the $400 billion, that is a bait and switch for the American people.
I think that's a valid argument. On the other hand, having worked at the White House, Van was there as well, you've been there. There are security things at the White House that have to be done. I mean, it is the most secure government building in the world. It is a military base, and you can't just ignore that there are security things that go on above ground and underground that most of us will never see.
The president bulldozed the East Wing, didn't go to Congress to ask,
But now he's going to Congress.
even once, to approve a plan. Nobody even knows what the plan is because he just changes it every 3 months based on his grandiose ideas.
And the cost keeps going up.
And the cost keeps going up. Where's the oversight? Is this $1 billion? This is $1 billion blank
Look,
check.
I don't know if anybody's driven by there lately. Okay, there's a hole in the ground.
Yes.
We're not going to leave
We're
it indefinitely, nor should we leave it. Brad is right. Every administration has said we need a ballroom, we need a better facility. A. B, it does need to be secure. C, as much of it as possible needs to be paid for by private donations, just as the president said. But to me, I think it's sort of cheap point scoring to say we can't worry about funding to make sure that the White House is secure for the commander-in-chief of the United States.
The White House.
The White House is already secure, and even Abby Phillips pointed that out because there was never really any serious debate about it in the first place. At this stage, if Donald Trump wants this ballroom so badly, then he should pay for it himself. The man has reportedly made billions while in office, far more than many other presidents combined, largely by turning politics into a major money-making operation. But the way Scott Jennings, Brad Codd, and the rest of these MAGA loyalists defend this situation feels similar to how they tried to justify the war, where their argument was basically that people should stop complaining about rising gas prices and just wait until the war was over, claiming everything would eventually get better afterward. But in reality, those prices would not have exploded in the first place if Trump, or as critics call him, Agent Orange and Mango Mussolini, had not pushed the country into another unnecessary conflict. And it is the same logic with this ballroom situation, where they keep pointing to a giant hole in the ground as if that somehow excuses everything. But that hole only exists because Trump decided to tear apart part of the White House to begin with.
The White House is secure. What Trump wants to do is over and above that, and that might be fine. But I think there is an argument to be made that instead of after the fact, you bulldoze the thing first and then say, well, we can't leave the hole there, we got to fill it.
But this is how the White House has always been.
I mean, that's a wild thing to do.
Remind you that right now the Trump administration has been trying to prosecute the Fed chair over cost overruns for the
last
renovation.
The last time you had a White House renovation, Harry Truman just did it, didn't ask Congress. And now the president is going to Congress. I was told 3 months ago that the problem
what White House renovation are you talking about? Are you talking about the interior?
South Portico.
Okay, yeah, but
and the construction on the exterior of the building.
We've been down this road before. Okay, there are different types of renovations. Most of the major renovations, structural renovations to the White House, have in fact been approved by Congress.
That's what's about to happen.
Well, hold on. There is a fund that the president has available to him to make changes, and I'm sure President Trump has already dipped into it to make the marble black in the colonnade and to add text to the exterior of the Oval Office and all of that. There are different tranches of funds. So there are different issues at play here. And $400 million plus another $1 billion is a very different quantity of money. That's what we're talking about.
Will you be okay now that it goes to the White Congress?
But I guess, he did say that it was going to be free the American people. And I assume that when he thought about his ballroom, he didn't think it was going to be insecure. He probably thought it was going to be secure. So if he wants $1 billion to make it secure for our free ballroom that he promised us, he needs to go to his billionaire friends and get another $1 billion. I don't understand why.
They're busy paying for the Met Gala.
All I want to say is that people aren't dumb. It's like he said he was going to give us a free ballroom. We didn't ask for it, and he didn't ask permission for it, but that's what he wanted to do. And now he's sticking us with a massive bill for it. Now, you can then say, but it's for security. Well, you should have thought about that before you started tearing down the White House.
Well, I think
and how much it's going to cost.
The problem is, and I love you both, but you guys are getting played by this president. At the end of the day, he promised to lower costs, and he's building this ballroom. You have to sit here and defend him every single day. Gas prices have gone up. He's trying to sabotage the midterm elections. Like, this man is not doing anything to help the Republican Party whatsoever. And if I were a Republican on the Hill, or if I were sitting at this table and my Democratic president were to be doing that, I would be pissed, and I would be out here, and I'd be calling the White House every day saying, you know you're about to lose us the election?
Just imagine how Scott Jennings would have reacted if Barack Obama or Joe Biden had done something like this, because conservatives would probably still be talking about it even decades later. It would have dominated every right-wing show, every headline, and every political debate nonstop. But when it is Donald Trump, suddenly the same people who usually claim to care about government spending and accountability bend over backwards trying to defend it.
Yeah, so let me ask you about this reconciliation bill that you love so much.
I didn't say I loved it.
Let me show you what else. Let's talk, I love it. Just for a second, because I think it's important. The ballroom is the ballroom, but look at what else is in it. Another $32.2 billion for ICE, $26 billion for CBP, another $5 billion for DHS, and just a little sliver, $1.5 billion for the Justice Department. Keep those numbers in mind. Also keep in mind that nothing in this bill is paid for. So this is just adding to the deficit. Also keep in mind that last year, in the big, beautiful bill, ICE's budget was basically exploded. They were given over $70 billion.
To solve a mandate that the president got in the election.
Let me just ask you realistically, where is all of this money going? And does one agency need to be suddenly, it's not not DOD, the second largest agency in the entire country?
Well, if you want to say that we should have the DHS bill and DHS funding debated and worked out in a bipartisan way, then Democrats have to drop the filibuster in the Senate and negotiate it and vote for it on the floor and offer amendments. But Democrats refuse to bring that debate to the Senate floor. They won't let the Senate talk about it. So now Republicans are going to have to do it in reconciliation. This is all those projects you mentioned, except for the DOJ, come under the Department of Homeland Security. This is the thing Democrats are refusing to debate, to amend, to compromise.
I'm not hearing you justify the budget.
Well, look, the president got a mandate. Wait a minute.
It's a lot of money, and I think again, the American people are asking themselves, "Where is our money going?"
Well, wait a minute. I thought it's obvious.
You told us when Trump started, it was about saving money, waste, fraud, and abuse.
Wait,
the whole thing. We're talking about a DHS budget that's now over $100 billion.
Federal government employment, federal government employees, full-time equivalent employees of the federal government is lower than it's been at any point in 20 years. They did, in fact, cut out waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah, and they're working on it more.
And now there's new waste, fraud, and abuse with this.
But what they're doing is they're future-proofing it. They're basically funding it into the future so that this fight doesn't happen again while he.
Van Jones and Abby Phillips really nailed the point near the end of that segment because the hypocrisy has become impossible to ignore. These people keep claiming all of this spending is absolutely necessary. Yet just last year, the message from Republicans was that America was supposedly broke, that there was no money left, and that everything from healthcare to social programs had to be cut because of the national debt. But somehow, out of nowhere, there is suddenly enough money for a $1.5 trillion defense budget, even though the Pentagon repeatedly fails audits and billions upon billions of dollars are reportedly unaccounted for every single year. In the grand scheme of government spending, this ballroom might seem small compared to everything else, but symbolically, it perfectly represents the attitude of this administration. It feels like a modern-day let-them-eat-cake moment. While ordinary Americans are constantly told there is no money for healthcare, childcare, education, or helping working families survive, according to Trump and his allies, there is always money for war and always money for massive projects like this ballroom, but never enough money for the actual needs of regular people. That is why so many critics see this as just another wasteful boondoggle designed to benefit the same insiders who always seem to profit from these projects. And honestly, a lot of people believe that once Trump eventually leaves office, the public will discover that a significant amount of this money somehow ended up benefiting him and his family directly. That is why fewer and fewer people are buying the excuses and spin coming from Scott Jennings, Brad Todd, and the rest of Trump's defenders on shows like Abby Phillips. Trump's approval numbers continue falling for a reason because many Americans simply do not trust what they are hearing anymore.